All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am coming on this morning. I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday. Those that were off yesterday for President's Day enjoyed their day off. So, but I wanted, so I didn't bother y'all on yesterday morning because I know when people are off, they want to rest. So they don't want to hear nobody talking early in the mornings. But I worked yesterday because college was not closed yesterday. Most colleges and universities don't close on President's Day. But, that's the kind of profession you in. So you got to do what your profession calls for. But however, I love to respect others who may have specific holidays off. And I just like to respect the fact that we do have holidays and it's a day of relaxation or whatever somebody wants to do. Um, Anyways, I want to start this morning off by reminding you all about my guest that's going to be on tomorrow night, Electra James Inspirational Talks. And so Tyresha Bell Gibson is she's the Galveston County Democratic Chair, Democratic Party Chair, okay? Galveston County Democratic Party Chair, Miss Tyresha Bell Gordon, will be on my podcast for a live interview on tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m., Electra James Inspirational Talks. I am so excited, as always. I tell y'all, it does something to you when you're able to sit down and just talk to people and listen to their stories and just what they have to say. And that's the beauty of the vision that God gave me as an information podcast. That's the vision he gave me. Providing a platform where people can come on, share their stories, share information that can help somebody else to understand some stuff that maybe, you might be facing that or you've gone through that and nobody never talked about it. But to hear somebody come on and talk about it and you can relate to that, it just does my heart good, because just to have people to accept coming on to the podcast, it's a wonderful thing. We have an awesome time on the podcast, Electra James Inspirational Talks. We have a wonderful time on there. Behind the scenes, before we go live, myself and my technical director, Jacqueline Sarver, who explains to the guest how everything is going to work, and the different areas in which the podcast reaches out to, because there's places outside of the United States that the podcast goes out to, that people listen because I'm connected to a broadcast. That's what takes a regular Zoom and turns it into a podcast, because you are connected to a broadcast like ABC, CBS, NBC. Well, my broadcasting system is OBS. So once we connect to that, we go live and we go to a range area of the world. Anyways, I just wanted to remind you all of that on tomorrow night. I will send out another notice that she's going to be on at 6:30. And you can get to my YouTube channel by typing in Electra James Inspirational Talks and going out there if you want to, and subscribe to the channel so that when I do have interviews that go live or I put information out there for morning talks, you'll get a notification. So if you would like to subscribe, I would love for you to subscribe, but I want you to do it at your own comfort, because I want people to enjoy being connected to my YouTube channel so that they can tune in to my podcast. So I just invite you to do that. And if you don't, there's times when there are interviews and you're interested, please still come on. and listen to the live interviews. You can get in the chat section, and while the interview is going on, and you'll be able to hear. I mean, you see what other people are posting. And what happens is at some point in the interview, I will come in and pose these questions to my guest, and then my guest will be able to answer any question that you have. Now, when I'm talking to politicians, there's certain things that they might not be able to answer, but listen, they will let me know, and you will know, because that person will be on live, that their reasoning behind not being able to answer it as a politician. Okay, so I just want to put that out there to join tomorrow night. Get in that chat section and ask questions. Another thing I want to bring up, because I'm going to be talking briefly this morning, not going to try not to hold y'all too long, about this voting thing. Now, nothing was open yesterday. Every voting area that has been open is going to reopen on today through the 25th. From today through the 25th, which is Friday, get down to those polls. And when you get down to those polls and cast your vote, encourage somebody else to vote. Now, listen to me closely, because I'm getting ready to say something that many of you may or may not know. But the reason why they are encouraging people, and I too am encouraging people, if you can, vote in person. Vote in person. Many ballots are being rejected for whatever the reason, right, that we said. On last week, looking at the numbers of people talking from Dallas, Texas, I think they had like 28% of mail-in ballots were rejected. Harris County had, I think, 34%. The number is growing throughout Texas. I can't speak on some other state. I'm watching Texas elections and what's going on with this. So I'm saying, if you can, get out there and vote. Go in person, only if you can. I know that a lot of people have voted mail-in for years, but guys, we're in a dilemma right now. Got a lot going on. So listen to this. If I just want to kind of solidify why I'm saying this, because I don't like to say stuff and just to be saying it. I like to have meaning to whatever I say. So you can look this up yourself. But this morning, I'm listening to Sirius XM as I'm getting ready, prepared to go live. Stick with me here. Says Dan Patrick campaign delays thousands of requests for mail-in ballots from Texas voters. He says he deliberately had the return envelopes sent to the Texas Secretary of State's office instead of to the local offices. Listen to this. Once again, I'm going to say this, and I don't want you to just take it from me. I want you to research this, look it up yourself, and read for yourself, because there's more detail on it. Dan Patrick, this is an elected official of Texas. Campaign delays thousands of requests for mail-in ballots from Texas voters. He said he deliberately had the return envelopes sent to the Texas Secretary of State's office instead of its local offices. Now, if you think that your vote don't matter, why would somebody have that done? Why would an elected official have that done? To deliberately have mail-in votes mailed to the wrong place. Deliberately done that. So read up on it yourself, because, see, I am in no position to tell you what to do. I just tried to do just like I do with the podcast. provide information. When people come on to my podcast, they provide information. When I come on live, I don't like to tell you something, say just because I said it is true. Look it up for yourself. Research it for yourself. Now, I'm going to say this because I know that there's a lot of people that have been getting discouraged about voting and want to sit it out. People, we can't afford to sit it out. We can't. I'm not talking about just the recent election. I'm talking about from this time forward. You have to keep fighting. You have to keep fighting. And I heard Reverend Barber from the Poor People's Campaign say, this is what you tell people. Because I'm pondering on what else can I say to let people know how important voting is. So he said, if our ancestors had given up and dropped out because they didn't get things that they wanted instantaneously, where would we be today? So just because you lose a vote don't mean that you lose hope. Just because you don't get the person that you wanted to win that particular election, that don't mean that you drop out. That don't mean that you lose hope. The second thing is that you got to fight until hell freezes over. And when hell freezes over, you fight on the ice. That's some powerful stuff to remember. So when people start making excuses why they don't want to go vote and they start, feeling hopeless, tell them you can lose a vote, but don't lose your hope. Don't lose your hope. You fight until hell freezes over. And then you fight on the ice. You think about that in your personal life. How many times have you had to fight for something until hell froze over? And then you fought on the ice. How many times have you done that? See, nothing that's said is new. Somebody gets it from somebody else and they pass it on. And so that's what I got from Reverend Barber over the Poor People's Campaign. You fight until hell freezes over. And then you fight on the ice. And just because something didn't go your way, that don't mean you give up hope. You keep fighting because eventually, things will turn around. Because if people didn't continue to fight, what would have happened to civil rights? What would have happened to women's rights? What would have happened to the rights of women to their own body? What would have happened to that? And you know that it's important because you constantly got people trying to take things away from you. I never forget Barbara Bush when she made the statement, and they have a clipping of it. When did a woman's body become so important to a man? What she does with her body. Listen, we can be so heavenly bound, we ain't no earthly good. We always doing something just because we don't like it to somebody else. Women have fought for women's rights. I'm a woman. And I don't want to lose rights that I have. And I don't want my granddaughter to lose rights that she should have. And that's the way that we all should feel. And I'm just talking about that in particular because I'm a woman. Family violence, that Violence Against Women Act. Understand what I'm talking about. I worked as a legal advocate for 10 years of my life. I was in and out of courtrooms fighting for the rights of women and children down there in Austin, Texas, lobbying so that they didn't take away the violence against women, like they want to ignore it. It's a lot of stuff go on with that stuff when you're in that. And let me tell you something. I want to say this to every last one of the individuals who I've had on my podcast. Reverend King, the first one, that's running for the Galveston County judge. It takes courage. It takes courage to stand up and go for that, because you put not only yourself out there, you put your family out there when you running for these positions. Because people don't only scrutinize you, they scrutinize your family. That takes courage for people to do that. And to stand up and run for a position that you know that you're going to get a bunch of critics, but you still, let me tell you something, it don't take but one or two people to have some courage. And that's courage. Thank you for that. I want to thank Maxine Jones, Galveston County election official, for coming on and educating us about how ballots, this election stuff goes. How it is with a person that's went to prison for whatever with the election, voting, and trying to help us to understand to the best of her ability, and other questions that she asked, that she shared, and people asked questions and she answered. I want to thank her for that. It takes courage to do that, to go to them polls, and there's stuff that happens that we don't know because we just go down there and cast our ballots and leave. But there are things that they have to deal with, and there are guidelines that they have to follow. I want to thank her for that. That takes courage to stand and hold a position like that. I want to thank Commissioner Holmes for coming on and talking about this redistricting, things that he could say, he said, things that he couldn't. He didn't say much because it's still in litigation, but he let us know, encouraged us that to keep getting out there, keep getting to those polls, and why it's so important to get to those polls, why it's so important to share with other people about getting to the polls, why it's important to get young people signed up and get them active in registering people to vote, voting themselves, being that example for them. I want to thank him for that. I believe he said over 21 years he's been commissioner here in Galveston County. He'll be running again during the term of the presidential election. He'll be running again. But he came on Electra James Inspirational Talks to share this information. That's so important to me. I want to thank him for that because that takes courage. He's an attorney. That takes courage. You can't take the back seat when it's time to stand up and have courage. Now, my guest on tomorrow night, Tarisha Bell Gibson, is the Galveston County Democratic Party chair. And she's going to come on and she's going to share some information with us. I don't tell their story. They tell their own stories because I don't know their stories. I only know when they come on. What at that moment, it's not scripted. That's anybody who come on to my podcast. The podcast is not scripted. I'm not giving you some questions that's got to be answered. I'm not posing any questions because I want people to have control of the way they drive their own vehicle. I'm just there to keep it from going in the ditch. That's it. And that's why within that hour time frame, it moves so fast that my guests can't even, they always say, oh, it's over? An hour seems like a long time, but it's a lot going on within that hour. I'm saying to you, I respect her for coming on. All of them. I want to thank her for agreeing to come on to the podcast. And that's why I encourage y'all to come on and get in that chat section so you can ask questions that you may have, because you've got politicians at the tip of your finger. We brought them to you. So now, if you have questions, just come on and ask the question. So that right there, it can be answered. I'm saying to you this morning, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. People are fighting against you your right to vote, trying to discourage you from voting, trying to put things in your head like it's not worth it. Stop listening to that, because if it wasn't worth it, people wouldn't be fighting so hard to try to keep you from doing it. So, again, Fannie Lou Hamer, you can pray until you faint. But unless you get up and do something, until you get up and do something, God is not just going to sit it in your lap. You can look that up. Fannie Lou Hamer said that. She said that. So we can be critical of people when they stand up and they run for different offices. Because we can have different opinions, but we can't have different facts. And the fact is that when people stand up for what's best, for the right reason, we better stop criticizing people and get behind people. As long as they're going for something you believe in, that's not just going to help you, that's going to help other people. Somebody not wanting you to have health insurance, that's crazy. And you vote for that person, now that's crazy. That's what you call conscientious stupidity. You know that. You know that person don't mean you well. You hear them talking and you will put them in a position, and year after year after year after year, down the road, they still sitting there fighting against something for you not to have that they have. They don't want you to have the same access that they have. And you support that? I don't get it. Maybe somebody can send me a message and make me understand it, because right now, I can't understand that. You will support somebody that don't want you to have access to the things that they have and enjoy. That's what you call conscientious stupidity, when you know it. You already know it because you hear it just like everybody else hears. So yes, voting is important. Let's get to the polls. They're open till Friday. In early voting, it's open till Friday. And then on the 1st, that's the primary day that you go in, the last day to vote in the primaries. So I'm asking y'all to please, please, please get out there. Get to those polls. Take somebody with you. Take somebody with you. Once you have voted, again, you also, if you can't go inside and vote, the election official, Maxine Jones, said they have places where you can park inside of the voting place, and it's going to have a number on there where you can call inside, let them know what color of vehicle, that make and model of vehicle that you're in. They will come out there and bring it to you. I know because I did it for my sister and my brother-in-law, and they brought it out there for them to vote. So I know that it works. So you just call in there. They have a phone inside, and they'll bring that out to you. You can vote from the car, okay? And that's those who are disabled and can't go in. It's too hard for them to go into the voting booth. Also, she said that you can also go to the front of the line. If you're disabled and you want to go in, you can go to the front of the line. You don't have to wait in line if you're disabled to vote. You can go to the front of the line. And if you don't believe me, you can go to my YouTube channel and listen to Maxine Jones, the Galveston County election official, and she will say the same thing that I'm telling you, but go into more depth with it. Those who have been incarcerated, check with your parole officer, probation officer. Check with them to make sure that you have the pass to go on and vote. Don't just go vote. Make sure that they set a declaration, but they would be the ones that give you that. Okay, so Tyresha Bell Gibson, the Galveston County Democratic Party chair, that's going to be on tomorrow night. I think she's going to go more into detail about that. So make sure you tune in. Okay, I'm not going to stay on here any longer because I know people are still trying to get ready to get out and go to work, just like myself. So I wanted to make sure that I popped in this morning to kind of share that information with you and remind you of tomorrow's night's podcast. And I'll be reminding you again tomorrow briefly. But two things. Don't lose your hope because you lose a vote. Okay? And fight until hell freezes over. And then fight on the ice. All right? Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day. And get out there and vote. Tag, you're it.